Travillian Next is a division of Travillian, a financial services specialist search and talent advisory firm. Since inception, the Travillian team has dedicated itself to enhancing the return on investment of a company's most important resource, its people.
Now, another trend, I just want to move on, Keith. Another trend that you were kind of interested to talk about, and me too, was how banks have been more receptive to their executive leaders not being on site. And if you look at the 4 fintech president searches that we've done, and actually there's 2 more that we're working on currently, but the 4 we executed, only 1 leader actually relocated, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct. And I think, post-COVID, it just shows these, especially tech-forward banks, if you want to call them that, understand, look, it's going to be hard to find. We just want to find the top person to run this business. And the supply of that, Brian, is low. There's not a ton of, talent out there that's, built the BAS program, has come up through banking. And then the add-on relocation right now, when they're getting calls from other fintechs, from big tech, from other companies saying, look, we don't need you to relocate. You can stay where you are. So you have to think about it. You're not just competing with the bank down the street. When you're, one of these, tech forward BaaS banks, you're competing with Silicon Valley. You're competing with startups. And yeah, if you're open to taking it from, because for a fact, Brian, that just opens up your talent pool incredibly high. That's usually probably the first question we ask, or they ask, is, do I have to relocate? Some will, but it just limits your talent pool, and you're probably not getting the best, or have a bunch of different candidates that are willing to have to relocate because they just don't need to.
And think about it. When the first quarter, you imprint yourself on your team probably more than you will for the rest of your career. And most of these candidates are willing to be on site during that first quarter a ton, and then kind of step it back. Like we think of our friends at Lincoln Savings Bank. That was 2021, but they hired someone from Portland, Oregon. They're based in Iowa, and he's been there a ton. He's been able to, really, exert a lot of influence from afar. But
the preference is, I think you would, in an ideal world, I mean, they're right there in your backyard. And I think it depends on, where you're located. If you're located, in Silicon Valley or Miami or New York, you could probably find somebody in that area. But at the same time, compensation, there's more competition within those areas for that talent. So no, that's been a trend. I think, of all my searches this year or last year, I think there was only that one search that required relocation.
But dude, it's not just tech talent though. I mean, think about it. If you're
compliance and risk, it's
a $2 billion bank trying to find good BSA talent, and all you're looking for is in that 30-mile radius around you, and you're in a relatively rural area. What bank out there are you going to be able to, grab talent from? You can't go to the $200 million bank to get a BSA officer. You're much more complex at that $2 billion level. You need to be, grabbing someone who's from a 4 or 5, 10 billion. So it just makes so much more sense to create that candidate pool in a larger geographic sense. So anyway, I think working side by side is overrated. I mean, you and I are in the same office. We can't stand each other.
I know.
No, I'm joking.
We're just kidding. No, that was a huge trend. And I think another trend I think we're starting to see is, compensation is a lot different for the tech forward banks, BaaS banks, and as it should be. It's very complicated. There's a lot of scrutiny from the Fed, from the government. Not only that, but you have very complicated relationships with large companies such as Walmart or fintechs that are growing. You have data So it takes a special type of talent to be able to understand not only the tech side and the relationship side, but also the foundational risk and compliance and regulators. And as I said before, we've talked with probably most of the talent across the country in the Bass area. There's not a ton, bro. I mean, it's hard to find that talent. They're being pursued by a lot of different organizations, and they're usually passive too. They're not out there. Usually you have to talk to them. Are you willing? Are you looking? What's happening? So it's very difficult to find. But I love talking to that talent, emerging talent, getting referrals. Oh, you need to talk to this person. And when you have a great conversation with somebody about banking and about fintech, and you can find them a place where they can really take those skills and really build an organization, it's exciting.
And then as it comes to compensation and geography, the way that compensation always seemed to work was asset size and where you're based. Mm-hmm. You would look at the banks that are, near you, what the, cost of living is in your city. You would look at, hey, I'm $1 billion bank. What are banks that are 500 to 1.5 paying their people? It's a little bit different, I think, in this day and age. It's more
skill
about
set.
Right. It's skill
set.
The skill set. You have to pay what people are worth. You cannot worry about your peers. You think about what that person will bring to your organization, and pay them what they're worth.
Yeah,
it's easy for us to say this, right? But
but it's true. It's like it's in any market economy, especially revenue generating leaders, who are being, like I said, who are not only being pursued by other banks, but are being pursued by consulting firms, being pursued by fintechs, big tech, Google, whatever it may be. You have to pay them, because they know what their market value is. And they probably do want to go to a smaller, innovative place. But are they going to take a huge step back in salary or give up, a big potential at maybe a larger firm? Probably not. But as you can see with the firms that hired top talent, whether it's Lincoln Savings or Coastal, if you look at their profitability and you look at revenue generation, non-interest income, whatever you want to look at, it pays for itself so many times over.
Yeah. And then this,
it's like
I was going to say, this data isn't really the two recruiters just spouting information. This is the data that we've formulated over the years worth of recruiting, and what we've seen the best, most progressive, innovative banks pay their people. Mm-hmm. So I want to put that out there, is that, what we've seen is the best recruiting the best.
Yep.
So that's the data point I think every bank needs to see.
Hey, if you want Patrick Mahomes, you got to pay for Patrick Mahomes. It's going to pay for, you're paying to be profitable and bring in new business. And you want somebody who's done it, who has a track record and can build a team. And those type of people are very hard to find. And usually they're in a good spot. So to pry them away, you need to have, the right type of conversation, the right type of culture to really pry them away from where they are. Like I said before, most of them are passive. But it's exciting, and they get excited, and it's a fun time to be a recruiter in this space, because it's changing so quickly. Risk and compliance, 2 years ago, we didn't have many searches. It was a lot of finance searches, some here and there, and then over the last 18 months, I think it just goes to show you need to build that. I always call it the offensive line. I keep going back to it. Before you do anything, you need to have a great person in place who can navigate those waters. And that is not going to change this year. And it's not going to change in the foreseeable future. And you know what, Brian? That's a good thing. Because all the turmoil we've seen in the last 6 to 8 months in the markets, we need to have some guardrails in there. And they're coming. And they're coming quickly.
Yeah, well, and the final point, so we can adjourn here, Keith, is I think you and I both agree that, and I say this a lot, that the community bank space is one of the greatest spaces that employees can land and employees can be in. And we've recruited some big fish into much smaller organizations. And these are people that are almost reborn in their careers because the cultures are genuine. The innovation is real. There aren't as many legacy woes and hurdles of bigger organizations. So we're going to continue to really be extremely excited to forge deep relationships with our community bank clients over the coming year and years ahead.
Yeah, they think fast, they move fast, they are community based. They're not losing that culture, even though they're partnering maybe with larger, fintechs and the backbone of that. They're not losing their heart and soul, which is in that community that they serve. And that's fantastic. And yeah, I love being in the space. I love kind of fighting for the underdog. We're in Philadelphia, a big rocky city, man. It is, the community banks are the underdogs competing against the JP Morgans and the Bank of Americas. But I love that. I love, providing that talent and helping those companies compete. So, Brian, it was a great 2022. I'm happy 2023 is off to a great start, and look forward to seeing what the year will bring. But I just want to thank our clients, our friends out there. We work with some wonderful people, just genuine great people, and we really care about our clients, and I can tell they care about us and the candidates. So it's a great business to be in.
Yeah, agreed. Ton of gratitude. Thank you, everybody. And you'll see us a ton on these videos over the course of the year. We'd love to hear from you as well. So contact Keith and myself, and have a wonderful year, everyone.
Thanks, Brian.